Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Love's Labour's Lost. We're actually getting towards the end of Love's Labour's Lost. We are in Act 5, or Act 5 Scene 2 as it is known in some versions, but we only have about a week's worth of monologues left in Love's Labour's Lost, and then we move on to the next play, which goes by many names. The major one people don't want to say in theaters, but we'll get into that later. So anyway, we get to hear from Berowne today and the stuff that's going on. So the men have all come to terms with the fact that they are in love with the women and have decided that they need to provide the women with some sort of entertainment in order to woo them. Holofernes and Dull and Armado and those clowns are going to be putting together a play of the Nine Worthies on the King's commission to entertain everybody as part of this whole wooing thing. But the men themselves also decided, we learned from Boyette yesterday, that they should show up to where the ladies are camped out, dressed as Russians, to mess with them, to play with them, to go have a bit of a dance and a bit of a laugh. So they're going to show up in disguise to where the ladies are. But since Boyette told them that in our monologue from yesterday, the ladies have decided that they are also going to be in disguise, and what's more, they've switched gifts amongst themselves that the men had given them. So if the guy shows up thinking, oh, I gave Rosaline that ring, but it's really Catherine that's wearing the ring, or however they did all, it's actually Rosalind and the princess who switch, and then Catherine and Maria who switch. But they switch their tokens so that the men will be wooing the wrong women when they show up. And Boyette thought that this was just the funniest thing. And the men show up and they send Moth out as their mouthpiece, but of course he's saying the wrong thing and he's standing wrong, and they're dressed as Russians and they're trying to tell him the right things to say, and it's this weird game of telephone between the men and then Moth and then Boyette and then the ladies and then Boyette and Moth and the men, all that sort of thing, until finally Boyette's like, she can hear you, so they start talking a little bit more directly, and the men are like, we just came to have a dance, and the women are like, yeah, we're not dancing. So the men, we get to see each man flirting with a woman who he thinks is the woman with whom he's in love, but is actually someone else. So, for example, the king ends up flirting with Rosaline, and so far and so forth around the circle. And we get to see little snippets of each of their conversations as they're trying to flirt, and as the men are trying to get the women to dance, and the women are, refusing advances and all of that sort of thing. And then the men leave. The women decide that they're not going to dance anymore, so the men leave. They go off, and the women are like, oh my goodness, that was a hoot. He swore that he loves me. No, he swore that he loves me. He swore that he loves me. So they all get to have a good laugh at the fact that they fooled the men into thinking that they were people other than who they are. But then it turns out the men are going to come back, not in disguise, to have a chat with and woo the ladies. So they do that. They come back. The ladies, Boyette suggested the ladies go take off their masks and come back, because if they show up still in mask and disguise, then the men will know what was going on, that sort of thing. So the ladies all leave for a second to get back into their normal clothes. And the men show up and they say to Boyette, like, where is the princess? And Boyette goes to get the princess, and Berowne is a little bit jealous of Boyette in general. I mean, we've gotten to see Boyette do some flirting with the ladies earlier in the play, and there's the possibility that Boyette is a bit of a courtesan, maybe a bit of a pimp, even, I don't know. So when he leaves to go get the ladies, presumably in order to buy everybody a little bit more time to change their costumes, Berowne gets this nice little monologue about Boyette where he says, this fellow picks up wit as pigeons peas, and utters it again when love doth please. He is wit's peddler, and retails his wares at wakes and wassels, meetings, markets, fairs, and we that sell by growth, the Lord doth know, have not the grace to grace it with such show. This gallant pins the wenches on his sleeve. Had he been Adam, he had tempted Eve. He can carve, too, and lisp. Why, this is he that kissed away his hand in courtesy. This is the ape of form, Monsieur the Nice, that when he plays at tables, chides the dice in honorable terms. nay, he can sing, most meanly, and in ushering, mend him who can. The ladies call him sweet. The stairs, as he treads on them, kiss his feet. This is the flower that smiles on everyone, to show his teeth as white as whale's bone. And consciences that will not die in debt pay him the duty of honey-tongued Boyette. So basically, he's painting a picture here of who Boyette is, saying that Boyette is thought of as sweet and charming, and he can basically get any woman that he wants to, and his hand is worn out because he's kissed so many hands away in his time, but he's always kind and courteous, but there's also a lot of sexual innuendo underneath all of it, like ushering could be ushering, if you know what I mean, that sort of thing. So it's a balance between like the complimenting Boyette while being jealous of Boyette, while also wanting to tear Boyette down and bring him down to a baser level kind of a thing. And mostly it just fills up some time so that the ladies can get changed. And the ladies come out and they're very not kind to the men when they come back out. They're like, yeah, what are you all doing here? And the men are like, we're here to take you into the court for a lovely evening. And they're like, yeah, no, we don't need any of that. Like, we've already been entertained. There were a bunch of Russians here that entertained us. Well, they tried to entertain us, but they were really terrible at it. None of them said anything worth saying. So, yeah. So, 2 attempts to entertain the ladies, 2 icy receptions to those attempts. Can this play turn into a love story that has a happy ending? I don't know. Has love's labor already been lost? Can it be regained before the end of the play? We'll find out. We have like a week still, which means there's a bunch of play to get through. But we will find out before the play ends. What has happened with love's labor? Has it prevailed? I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.